A choir is a musical ensemble of singers. Choral music, in turn, is the music written specifically for such an ensemble to perform. Choirs may perform music from the classical music repertoire, which spans from the medieval era to the present, and/or popular music repertoire. Most choirs are led by a conductor, who leads the performances with arm and face gestures. A body of singers who perform together as a group is called a choir or chorus. The former term is very often applied to groups affiliated with a church, and the second to groups that perform in theaters or concert halls. But this distinction is far from rigid. Choirs may sing without instrumental accompaniment, with the accompaniment of a piano or pipe organ, with a small ensemble, or with a full orchestra of 70 to 100 musicians. The term choir has the secondary definition of a subset of an ensemble, thus one speaks of the woodwind choir of an orchestra, or different choirs of voices and/or instruments in a polychoral composition. In typical 18th to 21st century oratorios and masses, chorus or choir is usually understood to imply more than one singer per part, in contrast to the quartet of soloists also featured in these works. Structure: choirs are often led by a conductor or choir master. Most often choirs consist of 4 sections intended to sing in 4-part harmony, but there is no limit to the number of possible parts, as long as there is a singer available to sing the part. Thomas Tallis wrote a 40-part motet entitled Spem in Alium, for 8 choirs of 5 parts each. Krzysztof Penderecki's Stabat Mater is for 3 choirs of 16 voices each, a total of 48 parts. Other than 4, the most common number of parts are 3, 5, 6, and 8. Choirs can sing with or without instrumental accompaniment. Singing without accompaniment is called a cappella singing. Accompanying instruments vary widely, from only one instrument to a full orchestra of 70 to 100 musicians. For rehearsals, a piano or organ accompaniment is often used, even if a different instrumentation is planned for performance, or if the choir is rehearsing unaccompanied music. Many choirs perform in one or many locations, such as a church, opera house, or school hall. In some cases, choirs join up to become one mass choir that performs for a special concert. In this case, they provide a series of songs or musical works to celebrate and provide entertainment to others. Role of conductor: conducting is the art of directing a musical performance, such as a choral concert, by way of visible gestures with the hands, arms, face and head. The primary duties of the conductor or choir master are to unify performers, set the tempo, execute clear preparations and beats, and to listen critically and shape the sound of the ensemble. The conductor or choral director typically stands on a raised platform, and he or she may or may not use a baton. Conducting while playing the piano may also be done with musical theatre pit orchestras. Communication is typically non-verbal during a performance. However, in rehearsals, frequent interruptions allow the conductor to give verbal directions as to how the music should be sung. Conductors act as guides to the choirs they conduct. They choose the works to be performed and study the scores, to which they may make certain adjustments, work out their interpretation, and relay the vision to the singers. Choral conductors may also have to conduct instrumental ensembles such as orchestras if the choir is singing a piece for choir and orchestra. They may also attend to organizational matters, such as scheduling rehearsals, planning a concert season, hearing auditions, and promoting their ensemble in the media. In worship services, accompaniment: Eastern Orthodox churches, some American Protestant groups, and traditional synagogues do not use instruments. In churches of the Western Rite, the accompanying instrument is usually the organ, although in colonial America, the Moravian Church used groups of strings and winds. Many churches which use a contemporary worship format use a small amplified band to accompany the singing, and Roman Catholic churches may use, at the discretion, additional orchestral accompaniment. Liturgical function, in addition to leading of singing in which the congregation participates, such as hymns and service music. Some church choirs still sing full liturgies, including propers. Chief among these are the Anglican and Roman Catholic churches. Far more common, however, is the performance of anthems or motets at designated times in the service. Types: mixed choirs. This is perhaps the most common type, usually consisting of soprano, alto, tenor, and bass voices, often abbreviated as SATB. Often one or more voices is divided into two, e.g., SSAATTBB, where each voice is divided into two parts, and SATB-SATB, where the choir is divided into two semi-independent four-part choirs. Occasionally baritone voice is also used, often sung by the higher basses. In smaller choirs with fewer men, sab, or soprano, alto, and baritone arrangements allow the few men to share the role of both the tenor and bass in a single part. Male choirs, with the same SATB voicing as mixed choirs but with boys singing the upper part and men singing alto, also known as countertenors. This format is typical of the British cathedral choir. Female choirs, usually consisting of soprano and alto voices, two parts in each, often abbreviated as SSAA, or as soprano I, soprano 2, and alto, abbreviated SSA. Men's choirs, or male chorale, usually consisting of two tenors, baritone, and bass, often abbreviated as TTBB. ATBB may be seen in some barbershop quartet music. Children's choirs, often two parts, are a three-part SSA, sometimes more voices. This includes boy choirs. Boy choirs typically sing SSA or SSAA, sometimes including a tenor part for boys whose voices are changing. Indian music choral group takes the elements of Western music in Indian music. Madras Youth Choir is a pioneer in this. Choirs are also categorized by the institutions in which they operate: church choirs, collegiate and university choirs, community choirs, professional choirs, either independent or state-supported, school choirs, signing choirs using sign language rather than voices, integrated signing and singing choirs, using both sign language and voices and led by both a sign conductor and a musical director. Cambiata choirs, often the same SATB, but with girls singing soprano and alto, along with trebles and cambiatas and boy altos. Some choirs are categorized by the type of music they perform, such as spark choirs, barbershop music, gospel choirs, show choirs, in which the members sing and dance, often in performances somewhat like musicals, symphonic choirs, vocal jazz choirs, or arrangements on stage. There are various schools of thought regarding how the various sections should be arranged on stage. In symphonic choirs it is common to order the choir behind the orchestra from highest to lowest voices from left to right, corresponding to the typical string layout. In a cappella piano-accompanied situations it is not unusual for the men to be in the back and the women in front. Some conductors prefer to place the basses behind the sopranos, arguing that the outer voices need to tune to each other. More experienced choirs may sing with the voices all mixed. Sometimes singers of the same voice are grouped in pairs of threes. Proponents of this method argue that it makes it easier for each individual singer to hear and tune to the other parts, but it requires more independence from each singer. Opponents argue that this method loses the spatial separation of individual voice lines, an otherwise valuable feature for the audience. audience, and that it eliminates sectional resonance, which lessens the effective volume of the chorus. For music with double choirs, usually the members of each choir are together, sometimes significantly separated, especially in performances of 16th-century music. Some composers actually specify that choirs should be separated, such as in Benjamin Britten's War Requiem. Consideration is also given to the spacing of the singers. Studies have found that not only the actual formation, but the amount of space affects the perception of sound by choristers and auditors.